is Paul Wesley, a.k.a. Prince Troop Chaser, and I am here with Bret Oldham. He is a fellow abductee as myself, and he is the author of an amazing book. It's called Children of the Great. How are you, Bret?
I'm doing good today. How are you doing today, Paul?
I'm doing great, sir. First off, thanks for the interview.
Well, you're very welcome. It's a pleasure to be here. I always try to do my best to get the word out. It's a worldwide phenomenon I'm sure you're aware of and happening on a grand scale.
Right. So, can you tell everyone a little bit about background, about yourself?
Well, I live in Tennessee, just south of Nashville, and I'm just a business owner, just a regular guy. I have been involved in the paranormal since my teen years, mainly because I started having, after my abduction event, basically it happened my entire life, I started having an enormous amount of paranormal activity around me, and my research has since found that many abductees, the same type of thing happen to. So I got into the paranormal research at an early age, even during when abductions memories were suppressed. And I still do that with my wife. We have a moniker of going under Halo Paranormal. We're not really a team per se, but we do a lot of research, not only into alien abductions and UFO sightings and things like that, but we sometimes venture into cryptozoology and we do a lot of ghost research and spirit seems to be what persons specialize in. I do think there is a definite between paranormal and the thoughts that the abductee is taking up. So we can get into that if you want, but I don't know if you found that out yourself or through other experiences. If they've mentioned anything like that, but I found that they start having these increased abduction, increased paranormal event soon after their abduction.
Right. One of the big questions, just to get down to the meat and gravy of it all, is what do you think? What do you think the abductions are for? Me personally, I think it's to, in the end, these hybrids. As in your book, you have the Children of the Great. I think that these Zeta hybrids are to recycle humanity. And I do a lot of activism, but I like to mix it up because I think it's all connected. I think that the alien intervention with humanity and what's going on worldwide is all connected. And I kind of, that's why one of the reasons why I'm really glad that you're on, because I want to bring that to light to a lot of people who really want to make change in the world. I want them to realize that, number one, our world leaders are connected with these interdimensional beings. There's a dark government that's connected, and two, that it seems to be a hybrid program that's not only been going on, but that's in full swing right now. So, first off, what do you think?
Yeah, I agree with you. I mean, as far as days go, there's a definite hybrid program. I've been subjected to it. I go over, my book covers everything from my first event at 5 years old all the way to the present day. So it's like 4 decades of experiences, and many times what I was subjected to with their study of sexuality, also like fecundity, taking sperm and things like that. I was introduced to the cover of my book. It was very important to me to put the depiction of the little hybrid girl on there because that's something that a hybrid that I was introduced to during one of the abduction events, and they had told me that she was mine and the various that I interact with her, and she was presented to me by another female hybrid. So I've seen countless amounts of evidence that their whole agenda, to me, they are definitely creating a hybrid race, and the hybrids are changing. They're getting more and more human-like in appearance. Even the hybrid girl that I was presented with, this was an event that happened about 3.5 years earlier. We were just on a show on Destination America called American Monsters and Mystery, and they depict one of the events which was happening in the late 80s when he lived in Las Vegas, and my girlfriend was living with me at the time. She got pregnant, and everything was going fine. I had been having a lot of recurring nosebleeds just last month, and that's kind of function. That's nosebleed, and I had the feeling that we're starting up again. I'll make a thing with them, and we both experiencing sleep paralysis and all these lame conclusions that these skeptics come up with, to try to explain this stuff away. And blacked out right then. And what we found out later, that she had an old typewriter, that an old-fashioned typewriter, on the table, and they had inadvertently knocked it off.
Right.
I don't think people knew them was a wheel woke up. But it made a noise. It stopped. It probably just surprised as a little bit that people had seen. But the table.
Right. You're breaking up, buddy.
Oh, I'm sorry. Is that any better?
Yeah, that's great. That sounds a lot better.
It's storming down here, so it might be a little bit of a problem with this, but let me know if, I'll try to move or something to see if we can get as clear a reception as possible. But anyway, the next thing that we both remembered was being on board the craft. She was on one table, I was on another. She was to my right, and they had left the opening. It was the most amount of graves I'd ever seen at one time, and they were surrounding her. That had her legs up very much like in a stirrup type contraption, like you would like a woman experiences at a gynecologist's office. And they had left the one side of her kind of where I could view her, and they had left the right side of the table that I was on kind of open. And they were taking the fetus. And she was screaming, begging them not to, and I was basically so angry. I was cussing them out, and I turned my head. I didn't want to watch anymore because I knew I was helpless to do anything about it. And one of them came around the top and put his hand on my head and moved my head back, forcing me to watch what was happening.
Right.
And the next morning we woke up, there was little traces of blood on the bed, and before we even had a chance to even say anything, whether we remembered what happened the night before, she runs to the bathroom. She goes, "Oh, you better call the doctor, I'm bleeding," which I did. We were about 15 minutes away. He said, better come in, and we come in there, and he says, "I think she's lost the baby, and we need to go to the procedure called D&C, where they go and scrape the womb out." And he said, "No, it's impossible. There's no tissue that came out. It was just blood." And so he did the D&C procedure, and actually my mom and her mom both came down to the hospital. And they were witness to the doctor coming out and saying that, but he comes out and he had this very perplexed look on his face, and he tells us that, he goes, well, it was one of the strangest things I've ever seen. He goes, the room was completely clean. There was like nothing in there. There should have been some sort of tissue left over. It actually been a natural, like losing the baby. And he said, I just saw this woman. She was just in there 4 or 5 days before that. And he said it was a perfectly normal pregnancy. Nothing was going wrong. But he goes, at this point, it's like this woman was never pregnant. So, and that's why when I did see the hybrid, I think they were trying to insinuate that it was possibly this fetus, but I don't know. It could have been created by somebody else, or not having anything to do with me whatsoever. But the important thing that they wanted me to do was to interact with it and to monitor that. They're so enthralled with our emotions that they're completely devoid of, that they just create all these different scenarios. And I think with their hybrid race, I think that they're having trouble understanding the way these hybrids are thinking, because they do have these human qualities of emotion, which is something that they've either lost along the way. Maybe they've relied so much on technology. But when it comes to there seems to be a certain faction of our government or world governments that are involved in this, and I have seen other humans interacting with the grave during some of these procedures. Always dressed the same, actually looking very much the same. I often wondered if they themselves were clones. But they will speak out loud. I write about a couple incidents in the book that happened. That's happened to me when I've witnessed these guys, and I find it very, that part of it even more frightening, that they're allowing this to happen. Not that I believe so much that we could even do too much about it, but there does seem to be. I personally think there's a trade-off technology. Let's look the other way, let this happen to these people, and there's just been too much of a jump in our technology, even like U6 Roswell. I mean, it's just been, we went from prop planes and cars that went top speed, 60 miles an hour, and to nanotechnology and space travel and stuff. And you compare that to the last few thousand years. I mean, we just made an enormous evolutionary leap in technology in a very, very short time when you compare it to the time scale of our evolution. So something has to be behind it.
Now, Bret, there's a lot of people who they say that the grays are lovable, they're full of love and light, and myself, my overall view of being an abductee is that I don't see it that way. I mean, I see that free will is being taken, and just like you said, when you were abducted and you seen what was going on, you were real angry about it. I mean, I don't think a lot of people grasp that we were sold down the drain, like we both agree with, and that free will is being taken. So, what do you have to say to these people who say, "Oh, well, you've chosen in another life to be taken by these grays, and don't worry, it's all for a good cause, this hybrid program." What do you think about that?
I think they've been implanted with screen memories to make them believe that. There has been nothing that I would wish this on anyone, and I don't have this perception that there are beloved space brothers here to help mankind. They're here to help themselves.
Right.
I've seen nothing. The stuff that they subject you to is not only cruel physically, it's cruel mentally, and there's a lot of psychological damage that's done to tens of thousands, if not millions of people worldwide. And this is a large phenomenon, and most people are too afraid to come forward with it. Even me. I mean, I've known about this for over 20 years. Once I ended up in therapy because I had anxiety attacks, because that was just the way it surfaced with me, and that's when I sort of had to break through what was causing the anxiety attacks. And but yeah, the whole everything. I have a large amount of memories. The ones that I do, none have been pleasant. So there's been some worse than others. about you, but I mean, I've had a couple times where, they have actually healed me, I mean, I will say that. But if you think about it, it's just, it isn't any different than a farmer keeping his prize bull in good shape, you know what I mean?
Exactly.
I mean, it sounds crude to say it like that, but really that's kind of really the way it really is. I mean, you're just a specimen to them. It's in their best interest to keep you that way while they're using you.
Brett, you still there?
Yeah, are you there?
Oh, I'm still here. You went blank a little bit. What I wanted to ask you was, have you ever seen anyone that looks a little odd, a little weird, like they look human but they may be hybrid? Because I have that happen a lot. And I don't know if it's because of being abducted that you get that like sixth sense ability, but have you ever had that feeling?
Yeah, I have. And I also have feelings when I'm around other abductees. I really think that a lot of the abductees, their psychic awareness just needs to be intensified. I don't want to go so far as saying that, you actually become psychic, but I do think your senses really are increased, and you sort of pick up on that type of stuff a little bit more than the average person. But I have, and I've had others tell me that too, the very same thing, that they've suspected or got this kind of feeling that they were possibly around an actual hybrid walking among us. And it would not surprise me. I mean, the little girl that's on my cover would almost, I don't think, she's just a little bit, and my brother, Jeffrey Oldham, is an award-winning artist out in Las Vegas, and he's the one that did the front cover for me. It was just very important for me to get as accurate depiction of that as possible, because I wanted people to know just how close it is getting. And there's been some people like kind of making fun of it, and because they expected it to be some kind of freaky looking alien creature, and I got news for them. It's getting the technology and the knowledge that these beings have, it goes way beyond our comprehension, and what they're capable of goes way beyond our comprehension. And it wouldn't surprise me in the least bit whatsoever that they would be walking among us.
And see, that kind of brings it to another subject, which is, do we hold the hybrids responsible for what's going on, or do we hold the Greys Zetas responsible for what's going on? Because the few hybrids that I've encountered, they seem nice. I mean, they just seem like love. And I find it hard not to have anger in my heart, because in the back of my mind I'm thinking, okay, well, you may be of love and light, but you're going to recycle us. And I hear people say, well, that's a good thing, that because if you think about like Monsanto, the stuff they put in the food, the air, the water, you have to ask yourself, I mean, Phil Schneider said it the best. He said they want 90% of the population killed off. But why? What happens then? Is that when, that's what I think. And I think,
people ask me that, not in interviews, but just in general, like, what do you think they're trying to take over our planet? And I don't think anybody really knows, I mean, they won't, it ain't like you can sit down with these things and have, fireside chat, so they're going to answer, usually the only ones that's ever answered anything that I've ever asked has been the tall ones who are clearly in charge. And that'll go to a certain point, they'll go to a certain point, and if there's stuff that they don't want you to know, they're just not going to answer you.
How far did you get with the questions with the tall ones?
Well, I remember asking about sexual stuff and what the whole thing was. He actually one time, and this is one that has been with me from the very beginning. It was the very first time I was taken. They took me to this one, and it's the small ones almost look identical. There's slight differences in the tall ones, but there's just something. I always know that this is the same person, and being, and he took me and admitted that they were doing the hybrids, and actually took me to a room which I know other abductees have seen before, and I walked in, and there were all these like cylinders with fetuses in them, and the cylinders seemed to be acting as wombs. I don't know. I don't seemed to be keeping these fetuses alive, and I was just stunned. There was quite a few of them, and so he freely showed me that and answered why they were doing this. So another time, I did ask him one time. He had showed me basically this monitor came up and would show me all this destruction on Earth and everything, and I didn't fall for it. I just told him, they were doing this to get an emotional reaction from me. I just
to put that in their subconscious. That's what they want to put it in our subconscious mind that that's going to happen. I don't think that's going to happen personally, but
I don't either. And I don't think they're going to ever let complete destruction happen. And I told him at the time, and he actually told me that that's true, that they would never let nuclear annihilation happen because it would disrupt the flow of the universe. But at the very same time, I asked him at the same time the question that to me, like a lot of people say, oh, did you ask them, where they're from or something like that? I'm like, no, because
it really doesn't matter.
If they are from another planet, they told me, I wouldn't know anyway. I would like to know, whether it's dimensional or interplanetary, but it could be both. But I did ask on a religious aspect. I was just like, who is your God?
Right.
And I asked permission if I could ask him a question. He said that I could, and so I asked him that, and without hesitation, he's standing directly in front of me, and of course I think it's well known, they communicate telepathically, but the answer that he said was, we are one with the one who is all.
Wow.
And it was so, simplistic but profound at the same time in its simplicity, and I didn't even know what to ask, after that.
That's pretty right on the point, right. I also want to ask you, I know I'm sorry I cut you off every now and again, but have you heard of the reptilians? Because they seem to be the ones that are in charge. I've never heard of someone who's been abducted that's encountered the reptilian race, like the Draconians.
Actually, Sandy Nichols, who's a contributor in my book, I went at the last chapter of the book, I put in a chapter called The Agenda, and I asked several top ufologists if they would contribute and kind of give their insight and perspective after years and years of study, research, what they thought the alien agenda was, and it was interesting. Get all they got Brad Steiger, well-known, just a legend in the paranormal field, contributed, and Dean Martin, Betty Barty Hill's Betty's niece, she does a lot of abduction research, and Brent Rain he's got a couple books out, does a magazine now, and he's been 40+ years studying film, and Sandy Nichols, and she runs the alien research group, and he himself is an abductee, and he also says that not only has he had experiences with the Greys, but he has had experiences with the reptilians, and he's one of the few that I have heard about, that talks about that, and from his descriptions of it, they seem obviously very frightening to him. But in the book, and part of his contribution was it was very interesting because he went back to a lot of ancient cultures, and of course I know about some of these things. I'm probably not pronouncing this correctly. Quetzalcoatl, I think, is like the Aztec god. The depictions of him, paintings and studies of paintings. He's reptilian, and he was this god they worship. Well, there's a whole lot of similar cultures throughout history that has very similar type what could be perceived as a reptilian-looking god. And Sandy did a really nice contribution and went through and researched a lot of these different cultures. And a lot of people think the reptilians were here before us, and still are. So.
Yeah, it kind of seems like they're the big honchos in charge, I think. From what I get, that's the case. And humans, us, we made an agreement with the Zetas, who are basically under the reptilians. Basically, the Zetas said, we'll give you technology if you give us a couple, head of cattle so we can experiment on and save our race. I mean, I may be wrong. Also, what I wanted to ask you, Bret, was a lot of people think that this is crazy. I mean, we both realize that. What would you say? I mean, if you come up to somebody and you say, hey, look, I've seen someone shapeshift into a reptilian, or I've been abducted by aliens, and the government's involved in this, I think it's hard enough for people that want to fight the government for freedom and rights and fair stuff like that. So a lot of people think this is crazy. What do you think about that?
Well, I think a lot of people feel threatened by it. It's kind of getting well past the point of the little green man in tinfoil hats, though. And people are really, science is all the time making new discoveries, all kinds of stuff, even physics, and with quantum physics, and they're opening up all these new possibilities. Because before, people were just like, well, I think it was man's ego, like we're the supreme beings in the universe, and it's just us, and and now that's just ludicrous, that kind of thought. But I think the main thing is people, they feel threatened by the idea because that we are not the supreme intelligence in the universe, or the other dimensional aspects of it. And then, of course, you throw in religion into the mix, and the ramifications of that are just massive.
Yeah, because
if there was a race that revealed themselves, and all of a sudden, they tell everybody, your Quran is wrong, your Bible is wrong, whatever, pick and choose. I mean, man, it would just be chaos.
Well, not only that, Bret, but
we got to feed into it as well.
What about the different dimensions? I mean, if we get into the fact that there's, this is like a fifth five-dimensional planet, and not only that, but Earth is also hollow, I mean, it just gets, rabbit hole gets deeper and deeper. I try to push the issue that, I really try to push the issue of different dimensions and hollow Earth. What do you think about that?
The dimensional thing, I know I've experienced it myself. I've actually witnessed it being taken. I always wondered how I got from point A to point B. I would sometimes see them, and then next thing I know, I always black out, and then I would wake up on the crap. And I've heard others talk about, I went through the wall, I went through the whatever, floated through the window and all that kind of stuff. That never happened to me, and it always bothered me, like, how are they doing it? And a couple of years ago, I heard a tapping on the side of my bed, and sometimes because of the paranormal work we do, we get visitations from ghosts. I kind of thought that's what it was, and I was just kind of, it woke me up, it was dawn, so it was pretty bright in the bedroom, and I thought that I would just kind of act like I was asleep and see what happened next. Then I heard it again, so I didn't move, I opened my eyes, and when I did, there's 3 grays lined up down the side of the bed.
Wow.
So, but I could also see the bedroom wall was actually facing outside of the bed, and on the bedroom wall, it appeared to what I can best describe as like a water mirage looking texture, and it was in an oval shape. It had a white mist, about a foot long white mist around it, and through that watery kind of image, I could see into a craft, and there was another gray in the craft. So it was like a dimensional portal that they had opened up, and I'm positive that this is how they're taking people, and I think this has a lot to do with the paranormal activity increase from abductees, because we're taken through these dimensional, and this dimensional shift seems to increase the frequency of our energy, which matches the dimensions that the spirit world is in. And so when we come back to our dimension, we seem to be vibrating at a faster pace and really become like a beacon to the spirit world, and which, of course, they seek us out because they're able to find us.
Have you ever heard of Planet X, Nibiru, or no?
Oh yeah. Yeah.
What is your take on that? Is that real, or is it just I don't know? Is it?
I'm still kind of on the fence on that. I do think there is something to the whole the whole idea of Anunnaki coming down here and altering, basically creating the Homo sapien as we know it today. There does seem to be a lot of evidence to that, and I know that really doesn't go over well with most religions, but when you kind of open up to that and research it out, it's pretty mind-blowing stuff. So and as far as the whole world, there's been some really interesting things that have come up about that. I do know I've heard time and time again stories of like underground tunnel systems that go on and on. Really, they're supposed to be interweaved all through the United States. And when I was living in Vegas, I heard stories about the Grand Canyon and a find out there in the 20s where they went into a super large cavern and was full of artifacts and just went on for miles and miles, and they went into government and blew up the opening. It was right on the river, the Colorado River. Utah, same thing. I know a lot of people in Utah lived there for a short time. I heard a tremendous amount of stories about a whole underground system of tunnels there. I actually met somebody when I was living in Vegas. There's a road, a Blue Diamond Road between Las Vegas and Pahrump, on Bill's old hometown. And there was a lot of sightings out there around the 16-mile marker. I had one myself, and I've interviewed several people who did. There was a couple guys that had went out there on their dirt bikes and spent the night one night, and they claimed that they had found an opening in the side of the mountain that seemed to be like man-made or alien-made or whatever. And they went in and they said it was just humongous in there. They couldn't see real far, but they said it appeared like it just went on and on. And they reported that and went back to try to find it. Couldn't find it again. So who knows? These are just stories, but there does seem to be a labyrinth of tunnels. All these reports there's got to be some truth to it. With this many reports coming from all different kinds of people, whether that leads to a hollow earth or just some kind of elaborate underground system, underground bases, who knows?
On a closing note, I'd like to add that what's going on in the world today with all the negative vibes that's going on with governments and uprising, you kind of, if you take the UFO, interdimensional beings mindset of it, it really kind of makes you think, well, what hope do we have? I mean, because if our government's that ahead of us.
One thing I've found, and just like you, I can tell from looking into what you do, and I respect it.
Right.
And you have a good heart, and you have. I found this.
Right.
That most experiencers, this is the case. I signed a lot of petitions and things like that myself, and I'm a big animal advocate and just all kinds of things. And I found this over and over that we seem to come back with a different perspective than a lot of the population, and try to do our best to make a positive change in the world. So I try to find hope in that.
So it kind of comes down to where, no matter what we do, no matter how we do it, as long as we do it positive, whatever the outcome will be positive, at least in our existence, at least in our reality. On a closing note, do you have any websites you want to throw out there? Also, name the book again so everyone can go out and buy it.
It's Children of the Greys. It's available exclusively on Amazon. I got a Kindle version and a version, both priced very reasonable. And also, if you want to find out some more information about the book, I have a website called it's www.childrenofthegreys.com, and I've got some more information there, the book, the trailer, and everything like that. So, and you can reach me. We have a Halo Paranormal Facebook page. Gene and I, my wife, for our paranormal work, which does encompass this aspect of it as well. Like you said earlier, it does cross over. A lot of stuff does overlap. And so you can find us on Facebook there, facebook.com/Halo Paranormal.
I'll tell you what, I'm on the line, but closing those thanks again, brother, and keep up the great work.